I finally did it. I finally watched Late Night with the Devil last night. Perfect Saturday night viewing. But this movie was definitely not without its faults. I'm Real Slim Katie 25. Let's get into it. Starting from the very beginning, I really was enjoying the documentary style. It led me to thinking about how the way that a movie reveals backstory tells me a lot about how the movie is going to treat its audience. I.e., sometimes I don't like a lot of movies that will dumb down its backstory and deliver it hand-fed to the audience. But it kind of goes back to, if a movie is made for the masses, then you kind of have to pander to the lowest common denominator and make the movie easy to understand. But the movie can't really be enjoyed if it's not understood at a base level by the audience. But as movies and production teams get smarter, the way that they deliver the backstory tells me a lot about how it's going to treat its audience. And I thought delivering the backstory in the form of a documentary style was delightful. It doesn't feel like it's pandering to the audience. It feels like it defines the style, the context quickly and efficiently. Plus, trying to watch in this like documentary style, like we're watching a tape of a documentary of a TV show, kind of fed into this really fun analog horror that I really like, and I generally only see in short films or on YouTube. So to absolutely call myself out, I'm such a doof, because when they started showing the credits, I was like, oh my god, it's like an homage to SNL. Katie, you're so stupid. The opening montage to SNL is an homage to all late night shows. God, I literally was so embarrassed. I almost didn't put that in the video, but honestly, gotta show myself, right? But I think the way that they define the graphic designs of the show is a super easy way to define the context of the world. It sets up a super clear color palette, design expectation, and what we want to see in the movie. It quickly defines the restraints of this world within color and overall production design, so that when things begin to vary from that, it's very easy for us to tell. Also, in the opening credits, we never really get to see her perform, but I thought having Cleo James was a very fun, very easy way to pay tribute to Cleo Lane, the Queen of Jazz. Also, can we bring back heavy sideburns? Can we bring back heavy sideburns? Because I wrote that down like 5 times in my notes for the show. Pretty please. Pretty please. Also, super easy, fun detail is that the news that he's talking about in the beginning of the show actually happened on the date in the movie, which should kind of be the expectation, at least in my opinion. But I think I've come to expect such a low bar from horror movies that when a movie like executes itself well in terms of small details, I'm like, whoa, crazy. To start off, I think David Desmalchian, and I think that name could be totally butchered on my behalf, does a great job as Jack Delroy of putting on this facade of charming and entertaining and exciting, but deep down knowing that he's not fully mentally there and engaged. Like, I wanted to trust the facade he was putting on, but I didn't. And it was just a very layered performance, which honestly carried so much of this movie. Not to mention the actor playing Christou was fantastic. I normally find that when I see actors doing like these practical like acting moments of possessions or connecting with a spirit, that it can sometimes play as too cheesy, or on the other hand, too serious and not like big enough for the screen. But I thought he honestly did a fantastic job. I was very bought into his performance, and it didn't feel over the top or under the threshold, if that makes sense. I think it's fun how during this whole first scene of him coming out and doing his act, you kind of leave the audience wondering, is he real? Is he not real? And questioning along with the studio audience. Because obviously the 2 women downstage could have easily been planted, but the way that they're acting makes me really want to believe and buy into that from the very beginning. But don't worry, if you don't, they literally already have a built-in skeptic character to play devil's advocate, just to make you question yourself a little more. Plus, side note, as someone who works in theater, the old excuse of, the old park cans are firing up. Boy, your plot should not be doing that. I feel some type of way about park cans as much as the next guy, but that was suspect as heck. As heck. I also want to talk about how when Jack goes into the audience, we see our first notice of unwanted touch, which seemed to be a big recurring theme for me in this movie. When he goes over and touches the audience member dressed in a skeleton costume on the shoulder, with no seeming verbal or physical consent from the audience member, which at first I thought was kind of a way for them to show us how Jack isn't fully in touch with reality, and kind of treating the audience members as a ploy instead of individual humans. But this theme comes back quite a lot. When they first bring on Lily and Dr. June, the makeup artist goes to touch them up without really asking. And this one didn't register me at first because, of course, it's her job to do that. But not asking consent on a simple level was super weird for me. This comes back even again between Jack and Dr. June and how he greets her when she comes on the show, which obviously happens a little bit before that moment. But even then, I do think this is just kind of a way to make the audience feel uncomfortable. Like the way that Lily looks directly near the camera. Not always directly in the barrel, but directly by the barrel of the camera, I think is overall just another way to make the audience feel unsettled. And by the audience, I mean the audience of the film, not the audience in the show. I thought the different parts of the story, obviously the broadcast being in color and the custom commercial, the like behind the scenes being in black and white was really interesting. I also noticed there's a couple shots where when they turn the stage lights on, it brightens the shot and it kind of looks like it's kind of giving a sepia transition back into color, which was a nice visual way to ease us back into that. And a super easy visual trick to just tell us where we are at, whether we're watching live or we're watching backstage. Leaning into the analog horror, I really super wish that we could have seen the commercials and the broadcasting that we could have seen up there. I think that could have been really interesting in terms of what is the world promoting, what his brand is entangled with. These little details that make analog horror so interesting and specific. I think that's part of why this movie didn't work for me, because it didn't really fall into analog horror and this like found footage genre. It didn't necessarily fully commit to that all the way through. I understand why they drop the found footage guys so that you can see what Jack is feeling and experiencing. So there is this reveal at the end of, oh, this is what Jack is thinking and feeling versus this is what's actually happening in the audience. I understand why they had to use that to tell the story in the way that they were trying to. However, I really wish it was consistent all the way through and it had just committed to that. I'm not sure how I would have done that better or differently, but it kind of made me feel weird that they didn't fully commit to this method of storytelling. I super enjoyed the performance of the cynic, who was completely punchable and super upsetting the entire time. It was a nice way to create conflict within the story without muddying up what was happening behind the scenes. But also, how offensive is it to mock the entire being of why this little girl's family was killed? Like, whether you believe it or not, how dare you? That was fucking crazy. I did like seeing this film lean into body horror and really fun practical effects. I would love a behind the scenes on how they achieved a lot of that. Even the practical effects with how they made the newscast just seem real. It was adorable to see the practical bat above the camera. It felt very Muppety to me. And was super charming. Overall, I loved the production design and I thought there were some really good performances in this, but I wish the movie had just committed to one modality the entire way through because they kind of lose me in the third act. That being said, I super enjoyed this and would definitely watch it again. And that's all that really matters, right? Like, it's a fun time to watch. Even if the lines are a little blurred, whether it's cult movie or possession movie or found footage, I still find it pleasant enough. Anyways, if you like this, feel free to subscribe for our channel for more content. Bye!